What is good, y'all? It's your boy Mixtape Moth. Go ahead and smash that like button. Also, please subscribe. But I'm just gonna jump right into the 5 projects that I missed, part 2. This is the second installment of recently released projects that I'm just kind of getting to talk to y'all about right now. But I'm gonna start with the first one, and that is Joell Ortiz's Love, Peace, and Trauma. So this was a dope release from the Brooklyn bomber Joell Ortiz, who is one of the nicest technically gifted MCs on the East Coast today. The project was primarily produced by the Heatmakerz, at least 75% of it was, and this album finds Joell Ortiz in his introspective bag heavy, really kicking some grown man, mature game. Of course, there are still those boastful and braggadocious moments like on records like Ambidextrous, as well as the Yawa, both of which are actually my favorite, and also 2 of the bangers as far as that more hard-hitting production is concerned. But you have quite a few more thoughtful records. Some examples include Thy Neighbor, Smile, and Make It By. I do want to be crystal clear, especially with the production, that every song here has some sort of soul chop or remnants of a chipmunk vocal sample that would fit under the category of just soulful. So, if that style of production suits you, then you will probably love what this album has to offer. Look, even the tracks that weren't produced by the Heatmakerz have this specific sound. For instance, the 2 closing tracks, Smile and Pen, Pad, and Dream, which were not done by the Heatmakerz, ended up being 2 of my favorites on this album. So overall, definitely a worthy follow-up to his LP with Arsonist of the Heatmakerz from last year. At number 2, another project that I want to talk about, which is closely related to the Joell Ortiz, is Wine Circus by Locksmith, also produced by the Heatmakerz. And look, I have to keep it a buck. This is really the first album from Locksmith that I decided to lock in with. That may sound sad, right? I do know, obviously, that he is one of the nicest lyrically out of the West currently, and he's super unsung. But look, I just can't get to everyone. But thankfully, I did get to tap in to this release. Now, Locksmith has a lot to say on this project, specifically about the culture and the problems that he perceives are plaguing it. There's a lot of social commentary as well as a focus on politics, and he's quick to point out the flaws in both the Democrats and Republicans. He also points out a lot of the hypocrisy in the rap game, whether it be from fans or rappers themselves. And the production was handled by Heatmakerz, of course. And if I did have to compare the production to the Joell Ortiz album, I would say I enjoyed the beats on this Locksmith just a little bit more. Maybe it was the drum presence that I felt went a little harder on the Locksmith, or maybe it was just some of the vocal flips. They were just a little more enticing to my ear. But my favorite tracks would have to be Death by Temptation. I also enjoyed A Beautiful Day. The Beach Boys sample here was somewhat unexpected, but I thought it worked. Closed Caption with Joell Ortiz was a complete banger and a total bar fest. I also dug the conceptual track, Cons and Pros, where he just spazzes with the wordplay. Then Wine Circus has this vintage Heatmakerz crack music sound. So definitely don't miss out on this Locksmith project. So next is Knowledge the Pirate's Before Common Era. So this is Knowledge the Pirate's second drop of the year. The first being The Round Table, produced by Rock Marciano. An album that I believe to be one of Knowledge the Pirate's better releases. However, this one, Before Common Era, is a worthy enough follow-up. The production here was handled by Element, who has worked alongside Knowledge the Pirate before, as well as VVS Tears and DJ Brown. So while the production, it is a little light on the drums, there were still some interesting sample choices that stood out to me, particularly like on the track Upper Echelon with Crime Apple. And I'd say this easily had one of the more regal and lush jazz soul beats that I've heard this year. I also really liked the production on Hatred vs. Love. There was something so fat and dusty about the soul chop that was striking. On the whole, there was a very pimp-esque, almost blaxploitation feel to many of the instrumentals, something very fitting for Knowledge the Pirate. But of course, there were some grittier records as well, like Navigator and Night Crimes with RJ Payne. Night Crimes was definitely one of the high points. Overall, Knowledge the Pirate did sound hungry on this project. He is consistent at what he does. And if you are into this rock Marcy-esque lane or aesthetic, then I think you will dig this project. It's not quite on the level of the Rock Marcy produced album, The Round Table, but it's still dope with that vintage flair. And at number 4, I have Hus Kingpin's River of January, Rio de Janeiro. I believe this is the third drop from the Hempstead MC Hus Kingpin, who is one of the more prolific and creative artists of our time, especially in the underground scene. Earlier this year, he had dropped the Threesome 5 and 5.5, but now he has blessed fans with River of January, Rio de Janeiro. The theme and title of this project are very fitting because Hus Kingpin actually has lived in Rio or spent a decent amount of time there from my understanding. At least I believe that's what he said on some prior projects or interviews. But I think what makes this album stand out is just the total focus on Rio de Janeiro, so there is that continuity. Some highlights include the opener, Shark Runners with the Baltimore MC J Royale. I particularly dug the spooky orchestral beat and just the vivid cloak talk here. It's definitely a banger. God's Best Son also has some elegant but weeping pianos that make it pleasing on the ears, and I did like the LL Cool J reference. Trafficking with Noah the Flood is a high energy banger. The focus here is on drug trafficking in the wicked streets of Rio. Then there's Winter's Club, which has a dope, luxurious vibe, and Hus has some rich references to Rio de Janeiro and Brazilian culture in general. I also like the slick and groovy sounds on Head of House. I'd say this had Hus Kingpin rapping on more of a track masters type of instrumental that was cool. In the closer, Who Shot Maurizio is a somber mafioso love tale over some melancholy pianos. It really created a vibe. So yeah, another very solid, consistent, and eclectic take from the ever consistent Hus Kingpin. How does he continuously do it? And lastly, I'd like to talk about Abraxas 2 from Killah Priest. So I gotta keep it all the way real. This is the first Killah Priest album I've listened to in about 2 years. Evidently, I didn't hear Abraxas 1, but it just seemed like his output has just been overwhelming that I really couldn't keep up with everything he had put out. I also noticed, though, he did start to go off into more of a super abstract drumless sound that I didn't find to be quite as appealing as his earlier stuff. But I took a chance with this, and for me, it seems like this is more of a traditional Killah Priest album. Obviously, I missed some of his recent ones, but I do, for some reason, feel it's safe to say this is more of a return to form project from him. Production-wise, the instrumentals were handled by Purpose of Tragic Allies, and they're all pretty serviceable. Now, there wasn't a ton of instrumental variety, which I could have used some more of, but a lot of the instrumentals were more in step with that late 90s, early to mid 2000s Killah Priest sound. So as far as the subject matter, it's standard Killah Priest mysticism. There was a heavier emphasis, though, on Gnosticism here. Of course, the exploration of early Christian texts or the lost books of the Bible. Also some talk about Abraxas. I do recall personally going through a phase quite a long time ago when I did purchase the Gnostic Gospels, and I do believe it was probably because of a Killah Priest album long ago, or maybe some other Wu-Tang affiliate that made me compelled to do that. So I say that to say this. I could understand some of what Killah Priest was talking about on his projects. I mean, the concepts weren't completely foreign to me as a result. So some standout tracks were Flow as Well and Buried Scriptures. I think also the track Been Large has the most Wu-Tang sounding beat, or maybe you could say the best overall Wu-esque production. Nag Hammadi is another one worth checking out. I just really dug the otherworldly feel to it. Additionally, the record New Wine has an unforeseen R&B hook that I think works. It comes across as pretty raw, just an unknown R&B singer doing her thing on the hook. Then there's the track Was It Real, where you are getting some vivid storytelling that just reveals how underrated Killah Priest's pen game truly is. And I did get some of views from Masada album feel with this track. And then there's the closer, The Trees, which has this mystical jazz rap thing going on, which was cool. So yeah, those were 5 more records that I've been vibing to lately that I was late on reviewing, but I wanted to put them on your radar nonetheless. So let me know your thoughts below. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out, but as always, it's peace and blessings.